So, as it turns out, and as I expected from my last video, yes, Avatar fans prefer The Last Airbender over Legend of Korra. We'll talk about that and a few other things that were pretty surprising about the poll I did against the other poll from the subreddit in The Last Airbender after this short intro. Hey everyone, welcome to the Geek Talk. My name is Antoine, your resident geek, talking about all things Avatar related, whether we're talking about The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, The Rise of Kyoshi, Chronicles of the Avatar, all that good stuff. So today we're gonna go over a little poll that I made myself in response to a poll that we did in another video. So if you want to catch up and figure out like what the heck we're even talking about, you can go watch that video. It's probably on screen now. And the whole basis of that video was that there was a poll that was given around the time of 2015, right after the finale of Legend of Korra, in which a majority of the fan base preferred Legend of Korra over The Last Airbender, which was very surprising to me. Again, you can see my reaction in that video. I decided to make my own poll for my own YouTube channel to see what the basis of that was. I didn't get as many responses as I wanted. I wanted to at least get 1,000, but I think 668 is enough. And also, the way that the breakdown happens for some of this stuff, I think actually makes a lot of sense anyway. So let's get right into it. So what is your age? The majority of my fan base is within the 18 to 24 age. So like that young adult age, that's what I expected, the college, university age. And then after that one will be 13, 17, so teenagers. And then after that, 25 to 34, which is where I land. And then we don't have anybody who's like 35 or 44, not that many people watching if you're in your senior years, which makes sense. Then I asked, what is your gender? And then we have 80% male and 16% female. That goes right in line with what my YouTube analytics says. Yes, right now I'm trying to expand a little bit so that we can have a little bit more female presence on the channel. I did make a post recently saying that I would like to do more relationship videos, so be on the lookout for that. Eventually, at some point, I will be doing an examination and timeline of different kinds of relationships in the Avatar The Last Airbender series and Legend of Korra, whether we're talking about romantic or platonic or even familial. Familial? Yeah, that's how you say it, right? Familial relationships, right? I think I'm right. The comments will correct me as they always do. And then where are you from? Majority of people come from North America, which makes sense. And then after that one, we have Europe, and then, you know, a lot of everywhere else after that one. But that makes sense. I think that's where the series is most popular, is in North America and Europe. So I'm not shocked by that at all. And then the big one, the one that we're all waiting for, what is your favorite series of the two, Avatar The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra? And it's exactly what I predicted in the last video. I said, oh, I was expecting it to be like 20% Legend of Korra or 30% Legend of Korra. And guess what? It's right in the middle, 25%. But even so, I would have thought that this split would have been something like 70% Avatar The Last Airbender, and then maybe like 30%, you know, Legend of Korra, maybe even smaller than that, maybe like an 80-20 split.
I f***ing called it!
So it's basically a clean quarter. So a quarter of the fan base, which I think does make more sense. A quarter of the fan base prefers Legend of Korra, and then 75% of the fan base prefers The Last Airbender. And I think that makes way more sense to me. I think that right there is like, okay, that tracks. And people seem to think that I prefer The Legend of Korra, and I think that's something that there's a misconception on, I guess, the way people perceive me on this channel. I think it's the fact that I don't hate or over-hate Legend of Korra that suddenly equates to I prefer it to The Last Airbender. But even, I would say, even saying that, my answer and response is a little bit more nuanced than that, than just saying, oh, I hate or love this thing. It's more a case of there's a nuance to it. I prefer the overarching storyline of The Last Airbender. I prefer the characters. I greatly prefer Team Avatar in The Last Airbender than I do to Legend of Korra. But with Legend of Korra, I prefer the villains. I prefer the geopolitics that are going on in that show. The themes are a lot more mature. The music, the fight choreography, all of that, I think, are doing much more work than The Last Airbender did. So there's that. So there's things I prefer on both ends, but if I'm saying like an overall enjoyment, then The Last Airbender would take it for me. So I would, if I did this poll as well, I would have selected The Last Airbender. And also, I think that's something we should understand from people just overall in general, is that people are pretty nuanced. Like, you don't just love and hate things all the time. A majority of life is meh. Like, everything in life is like, there's a majority meh, and there's only a few things that are truly great, and then a few other things that are truly terrible. And people always go straight to the trash, or greatest thing ever, epic, or like, you know, complete dog shit. And life is not like that. Life is not like that. most times. So which of the following is your favorite season? Book 3 Fire at the front, and that makes sense to me. That's also my favorite of all the books. And then after that one, it will be book 3 Legend of Korra, probably book 2 Last Airbender, and then Legend of Korra book 3, but my top 3 are those in some fashion. But for you guys, 25% of you said book 3 Change was your favorite, the second place there. And then book 2 Earth was 16%. Let's see what's number 4. And then number 4 is book 4 Balance. So that's again, like book 4 Balance for me, book 4 was like bottom 2 for me. So I'm really surprised that people enjoy it as much as they do, because I prefer book 1 Air of Legend of Korra to book 4 Balance, because I think Amon, even though I was ultimately disappointed with how Amon and that storyline ended, just the lead up to that and just the gravity of some of the things that were going on in that show, or in that series in particular, I think were really well done. It just didn't stick the landing. And I think that's also a big reason why people don't have it as high, at least on this list. Or I don't know, I'm just assuming here, but let me know in the comments, why is it that you would put book 4 over book 1? But yeah, it seems like it's really important just in storytelling, because I also am a publisher and writer, if you guys didn't know. It seems like if you can stick your landing, people can think you have a better story than it actually was, even though if the lead up was really good. For example, like Rogue One, perfect example, Star Wars story that came out a few years back. I think people hold that in such high esteem because that last act was utter perfection, especially the Darth Vader scene where he's like, just murking people. But the lead up to that was quite boring and not like a lot. I mean, there was a few things, like the beginning was really well done, but then like the middle, like the middle was very like blah. But again, I just think it's endings. I think if you end well, even though I don't know if that actually argument works, because book 4's ending isn't like superb or anything like that. But I don't know. Again, let me know in the comments, why do you prefer book 4 over book 1 in Legend of Korra? All right, next up, who is your favorite named avatar? Top dog, Avatar Aang, and then top 2 was it Korra? Kyoshi, and that makes sense because Kyoshi low-key might be like my number 1 right now, mostly because of her book series and me, super enjoying that book series. And then number 3, we have Korra. Oh, and by the way, I will put a link to the results of this in the chat so you guys can see for yourself like what all the breakdown was. And just know that, this demographic is my YouTube channel, so it might not be the same as if you go to like, a different YouTube channel, or if you go to a subreddit or whatever it might be. So keep that in mind. All right, so who is your favorite character in Avatar: The Last Airbender? And most people picked Iroh. Again, I love Iroh, but not above Zuko. I don't know how you guys put Iroh above Zuko. Zuko has such a better storyline. Like, I think Iroh is a better person, but I wouldn't say he's a better character necessarily. I think Zuko has like the much better, more dynamic, nuanced arc in his story, and he's just way more interesting to me than Iroh. I think Iroh is just a really cool mentor character, but he wouldn't be like my favorite in the same way that Zuko is my favorite. Oh, and also, sorry, I should probably say like who was in 3rd place. 3rd place was Toph, which makes sense. I know Toph is pretty popular. Sokka, I actually would put Sokka pretty high on my list as well. Like, I didn't realize this until recently, but I really like Sokka. Like, I think when I first watched the show, I didn't really care for Sokka, didn't really think about him, but then in rewatching it, like Sokka he went way up my list. And then we have Azula next. Oh, actually, I thought Azula would have a little bit more than that. And then Katara. Okay, that makes sense. All right, who is your favorite character in Legend of Korra? Now, this one is much more split, which might be reflective of how I think Korra is a more balanced show. There's not like a lot of like weights going one way to the other. It's very well rounded. Top is Korra, which is interesting. I didn't think most people's favorite character of Legend of Korra would be Korra, especially with how much ridicule she gets. Then second place we have 15%. That is Zahir. I definitely knew that was coming because I know a lot of people love them some Zahir, and I do too. I think that character is really awesome. I just think that he gets a little bit overblown because of his philosophy, and people just loving that philosophy for him. And even though there's some problems with his ways of thinking. Then Bolin, I would agree with that. I think Bolin's probably one of the best characters. He actually might be my favorite character of the Legend of Korra series, or maybe like Varric or something like that, which I don't even think Varric. Oh no, Varric's on here. He's like top five. And then we have Tenzin. Tenzin's pretty cool too. I will admit, the first time I watched it, I was very annoyed by Tenzin, I should say, but in rewatching it, I definitely appreciate him a lot more. Which element would you been? Majority of you guys said water. Oh, I thought it was gonna be. I was like, blue, water, red, fire. Oh no, but it got messed up. But that'd been cool though. But water is the most, and then we have air next, and then earth, and then fire, which I'm surprised in because firebending Well, at least in the Legend of Korra video game, firebending is like one of the better ones to fight with in that game. And also, I just thought people would think it'd be cool to firebend. I'm surprised there's not more. Like, I didn't expect fire to be last place like that. For me, I think I'm least interested in earthbending. I know people like that a lot, but I don't, yeah, that was interesting to me actually. So yeah. And then this is a different one, slightly different response. Which element do you consider to be the best? And I think water for sure. Water wins by like a landslide. When you have bloodbending, you have bloodbending. But then second is probably going to be interesting. I would say between earth and air, which one is best? Like which one's more powerful? That's a tough one. And I'm surprised that fire is so low. Fire is like the only one that you can generate within yourself. You don't need an existing element. So I would think people would think that it's a little bit more viable in just a combat setting. So I'm just so shocked that fire is so far down on people's list. Which of the following nations would you prefer to be a part of? A vast majority said the United Republic. And yes, I agree. Like I said before in my last video, I'm a city boy. I want to live in the city. I do not want to live in the poles or, you know, some rural area of the Earth Kingdom. I'm okay with the Fire Nation though, and that'd be cool. Which, by the way, what is second place? Second place is Fire Nation, which yeah, that is second place. And then the last place is Water Tribes, because yeah, I'm not living in the poles either. No, thank you. What would you prefer to be the name? Oh, sorry, the theme of the next series? It's pretty much like a split between an avatar before Aang or an avatar after Korra. People ask me this question a lot and I don't even know. Oh no, I do know my answer. So I guess technically I would pick an avatar before Aang. And I say that because I specifically want to see the story of the second avatar, because I think that time period would just be so interesting to see. The second avatar just seems like come on, like that seems like such an interesting time period in the world. And then you guys said some of you guys want more of Aang, and then more of Korra will be last place. How did you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? I watched it all post-airing, so a majority of my fan base actually did not watch The Last Airbender when it first premiered. And then the second place was I watched it as it aired, but after it first came out, and that would be me, so I'm in that 31%. And then we only have 17% of the people on this channel have actually watched The Last Airbender when it first aired on Nickelodeon. So that's interesting. Well, I mean, that also kind of makes sense too, because if there's a lot of younger people on the channel, like between the ages of like 13, 24, then I don't even know if y'all was born when that show came out. Were y'all born at that point? I don't even know. And then how did you watch The Legend of Korra? And still a majority watched it post-airing, which is really, really shocking to me, because that one's a much more modern show. It came out in 2012, 2013, 14? I can't remember. At some point, it was like the early 20-teens. And I'm surprised that most of you guys watched it post-airing. Like, what? And then okay, so 30% of you guys watched it when it aired. So more of you watched it when it aired than watched it when it aired for The Last Airbender, or watched it all the way through when it first came out. And then not many of you actually watched it as it aired, but then started watching after it was airing already. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about this poll? What are some thoughts you have in general? I know I asked a few questions during the video that I wanted to, especially that one about book 4 and book 1, Legend of Korra. Like, I can't believe people prefer book 4 over book 1. I really want to understand. I want to get inside your minds and figure out why that's the case. But I'll see you guys on the next one. We are going to continue with the lore video. Sorry, I have been away for a little bit. My hand, oh, by the way, my hand is back again. I am starting to get it in a fist. It doesn't have a full fist yet. Oh, actually, oh my God, it's doing a full fist now. The only one is, you see how this is kind of awkward? This one's not fully going down, my ring finger. So I'm still working on that. So I'm working on like rehabilitating my hand. But once it's back, we will be back to streaming on this channel, on YouTube and Twitch. And then we're going to continue on with the lore videos for Avatar Legends. Just been really busy trying to catch up. So because my hand's better again, I have to catch up on some of my other work. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Sorry for making this a really long outro. Peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.